dust kicks up with every step as his worn and weathered feet take him further down this old dirt road. From the position of the sun from when the nomadic traveler started walking today, it's at least been several miles and several hours since his daily journey began. The day is hot and very humid, as it hasn't rained for a few weeks. Everything is dry, the ground, the air, and his skin. What he wouldn't give to just rest his head upon a pillow at least one night. He can't remember the last time he had a restful sleep. It's almost a luxury to lay down in the bed compared to sleeping on the ground for an uncountable number of nights. The soft feel of a pillow and a blanket are unrelatable to a rock and the earthen floor. As the nomadic traveler continues his quest, he finds himself at a fork in the road. To the right, for as far as he can see, it just seems to go on and on. But to the left, his eyes witness smoke from a chimney, away in the distance. This must be the correct path for his feet to take. If he just follows the smoke, he knows he'll come across some sort of civilization. It only seems to be a mile or two, if his tired legs can get him there. As the sun gets closer and closer to the horizon, slowly dimming itself in the sky, the traveler comes up over the hill and he can just barely make out the outline of a farmhouse. As his feet make the distance shorter to his unfathomable destination, he can start to smell the air and the sweet enticing offering it brings upon its delicate breeze. He can sense the aroma of meat and vegetables laced with wild herbs. His tongue and stomach start to react, for he hasn't had an actual home-cooked meal in weeks, living off the plains of nothing but wild berries, plants, and the occasional rodent. He hasn't experienced the pleasure of real food simmering on the hearth. Succulent steam rising, enticing a man's taste buds, knowing what could satisfy his palate. Mouth-watering morsels of seasoned delights waiting to be devoured. After several more painstaking steps, the traveler has finally reached his destination for the night. As his calloused feet finally reach the property, he can fixate on a sign that reads, Vacancy. So he knows he has reached a checkpoint into his voyage. The sign is very old, and has been worn down through time. The sign appears to just be a piece of wood, etched with the word vacancy, now barely legible, chipped wood and rusted nails that have spent many a decade hanging here. So the traveler takes a deep breath, slowly released into a pleasing exhale. He is content. The traveler makes his way down the long winding path leading to the sought-after sanctuary. This house seems such a welcoming sight for exhausted eyes. His feet must complete this journey. As each step brings him closer to the front porch that seems so inviting, he notices a couple of wash basins, tubs that are obviously big enough to contain a full-grown man. And as he examines further, he notices that there are charred pieces of wood lining the perimeter of the tubs. It must be to heat the water for one to enjoy a long sought-out bath. Even though the weather has been extremely hot and overbearing at times, some do like to soak in nice, warm water. His feet finally bring him to the steps of the wraparound porch. He makes his way to the front door, but almost as his first rapping upon the wood begins, it is thrust open to reveal this tiny old woman that greets him almost instantly. Before he has finished knocking upon the heavy-set wooden door, the little old woman greets him and says, "Hello there. It looks like you've been wandering around these parts for quite a while." The little old woman invites the nomadic traveler inside, and she asks him if there's anything that he needs. He responds in a dry, raspy voice, "I just need some sort of lodging for the night." So she asks him to come inside and relax. She says, "Sweet thing, you must be extremely tired from your day's journey. You must be absolutely famished. Have a fresh pot of today's stew simmering on the fire that's just waiting to be eaten." As the traveler finds a place to finally sit and lean back upon some kind of furnishings, he relaxes. The time he has not been able to do this has seemed like ages. As he catches his breath and gives gratitude to this little old woman, she introduces herself as Ma, and she says that Paul must be outside somewhere on the property, probably doing his daily chores. She orates in a sweet little voice, "You'll meet him soon enough." She then asks the traveler if he's hungry, and his stomach answers with an aching pang. So she grabs a bowl from the cabinet and grasps her ladle. She scoops out that sweet aroma of stew into a bowl and hands it to the wary nomad for him to eat and regain his strength. to fill his empty belly with a home-cooked meal. He is very grateful for her kindness as he takes a spoon and digs into his meal, a sweet, savory meat, the likes of which he has never tasted before, with tender vegetables with a hint of hand-picked herbs to entice the tongue to enjoy, filled with chunks of sweet potato, wild onions, and some thinly sliced carrots. Ma tells the nomad, "Everything is grown on the farm. It's fresh for the most delectable flavors. Everything should be served as fresh as possible for the most enjoyment." As he is finishing his thankful meal, the little old woman tells him her husband is attending to the livestock to prepare tomorrow's meal. As he happily enjoys his last few spoonfuls, she lights an old worn-down candle, no more than a couple inches in length. With a very dim flame, she leads him upstairs and slowly opens a door at the top. She leads the traveler into a room for the night. As he enters his room, he can barely make out the bedposts. He can just make out 4 glossy white orbs that show each corner of his bed for the night. So tired and weary, the traveler takes off his boots and gladly slides in between the blanket and the mattress. The old woman tells him to rest peacefully and she'll take care of him in the morning. He grabs the pillow and places his head upon it, and within minutes, he is soundly asleep, dreaming of his past adventures, slumbering away. He is thrilled to be in an actual bed, something he hasn't had in a very, very long time. As rapidly as sleep came after closing his eyes, they are open once again, stunned by the high-pitched squealing. Long ear-piercing squeals echo through these old walls. As the traveler inhales a deep breath to calm his sudden alertness, he just thinks to himself, it must be a hog that the old man has slaughtered and dressed up for the next several meals. His last thought before he gives way to the weight of his eyelids one more time was, it is a farm after all. The traveler is slumbering again within dreamland. When dawn breaks and the sunlight invades through the windows, his eyes are slowly drawn open. The traveler stretches his well-rested body and lets out a deep breath, rubbing his eyes so that he can focus. He sees the dust floating through the sun's beams that fill the room. The window panes are dirty, tinted by age, obviously never having been cleaned. He also notices a smell that he didn't the previous evening. A musty, damp aroma permeated within this old, desolate house. The traveler starts to think to himself that the farm owners never do much cleaning or tidying up. He wonders if he offered to help Ma and Pa out, room and board could be an excellent trade for both parties involved. The traveler finally stirs enough to get his blood flowing and get to his feet. He stands up, giving his muscles one last good stretch, arms reaching for the ceiling. As he is stretching his muscles and cracking his bones from side to side, he is overwhelmingly stunned as he gazes upon the bedposts. Those white, glossy orbs that he noticed the night before, he sees 4 fleshless faces staring back at him. Those orbs appear to be human skulls. 4 eyeless, blank faces staring right back, watching him throughout the night. He has all of a sudden come over with fear, but the traveler must maintain his emotions to not alert the caretakers of this property. As he tries desperately to gather his composure, all he can think about is how he's going to get out of here. He slowly opens the door to see if anyone is waiting on the other side. As he peeks through the slightly cracked door, he can see no one standing there, waiting. So the traveler opens the door and creeps into the hallway. Still, no one inside as he makes his way to the staircase. He's very careful as he places each foot upon the creaking boards of the stairs. He doesn't want to alert anyone to his presence. The traveler enters the hallway with precision and carefully descends each step to the bottom floor. He glances around and sees no one, so he carefully makes his way to the front door that he entered through the night before. It's been barred with a plank of wood and multiple locks, obviously to keep something or someone inside. He silently creeps about, trying to find some sort of exit. The traveler hears nothing, no stir of movement in this house but his own. This desolate house is like a maze, considering it is just 2 elders that reside within these walls. As each footstep brings him no closer to salvation, he can only ponder where the old couple must be. As the nomad tries every door he stumbles upon, he encounters nothing but locked doorways. He finds himself in the kitchen of this puzzling house. One door he comes across is completely unlatched, no locks, and no boards forbidding his exit. He slowly turns the doorknob, and the old wooden door creakingly opens to a dim room. As the traveler enters, a pungent, deathly smell fills his nose. He quietly steps into this room with frightened anticipation. Barely any natural light is granted within this solitary abode. As he fumbles around trying with a jittery mind to find an explanation, he can't. All he knows is that he has to get off this property if he wants to keep his life. Finally, the traveler finds an unlatched door and, with eager caution, he stealthily enters the room of privacy, a room only known to Ma and Pa. As the traveler investigates his area with curiosity, trying to locate an exit to his salvation, he bumps into something hanging from the rafters. His feet take a few steps back so that he can fixate upon the ornament dangling from the ceiling. As his vision dictates to his brain what he is seeing, the traveler can make out limbs suspended, strung up like a freshly killed deer, arms and legs just like his own but upside down, no head, a torso split open with no entrails. Several buckets line the floor to capture the blood and viscera, a recent kill. As he steps back, he can make out the outline of a human form, completely dissected, ready to be cured and prepared for a meal. Stunned and shocked, he catches his breath from being expelled out loud. All the traveler wants is to sneak away, undetected. He must get away from this butchery shop. As he explores the summer kitchen further, he finds another door that he didn't see before. He glidily approaches this gateway to hopefully some sort of escape, but before grasping the doorknob to this unforeseen exit, he thinks to himself, where is the old couple behind this horrible market of meat? The traveler hasn't seen or heard Ma and Pa all morning, so where are they? He anticipates every alcove, every nook, and every cranny that they must be lying in wait to ambush. He does everything that he can to bring no notice to himself. His only concern is to feel the smell and wide open air that lies in wait for him. The traveler finally finds an unlocked window with no bars, and he quietly pushes it open for his body to slide through, hopefully unnoticed. It's just barely wide enough for a slender frame to squeeze through. The traveler's feet touch what he hopes is freedom. He has finally gotten out of this demented household, standing on grass outside this house of horrors. All he has to do is just run for his life. As he quietly reaches the corner of the house to make his desperate escape, he sees one of the wash basins that he noticed upon his way into this terror. He can see that the flames have been lit to one of the tubs. The smell of hickory fills the air. As he slowly tries to pass, he can see something filling the boiling water. Something he never expected to see in his nomadic life. Chunks of flesh bubbling away from bone, a wretched sight that no one ever wants to witness. Now he knows exactly what those basins are used for, the diabolical use to simmer and make the meat tender and render it down to an unholy broth. The next thought to enter his head is the fact that he'd seen no livestock whatsoever in the farmland. No chickens, no cattle, and no hogs. So all that squealing that awakened the traveler the previous night came from no animal. What kind of people did he stumble upon, he thinks to himself. All he knows for sure is that he must get away from here. As he makes his way past the front porch, trying to avoid this cauldron of cadavers, Ma greets him with a sinister smirk. Hands clasped together, rubbing them in a menacing way. The biggest sadistic smile upon her wrinkled face. The traveler stops in awe, surprised by this little old woman just standing there, all giddy. Baffled and bewildered, he doesn't sense that someone is standing right behind him. He sees Ma almost staring right past him, as if fixated on something behind him. As the traveler slowly turns, about to find out what she's looking at, he sees Paul for the first time. A hefty, tall man grasping a sledgehammer in his leathery hands. Before the traveler can react or even comprehend, the last thing he sees upon this earth is a sledgehammer coming crashing down into his forehead. Total silence. Ma and Pa will eat well for the next week or so, dining upon this unsuspecting meal.